Welcome back to another video with the king of YouTube, you! Today I'm going to be pulling apart the LDT HK, which is this bad boy right here. Basically this has a broken return spring, so I'm going to be pulling it apart, replacing the return spring, which I've got right here. And then bada bing bada boom, we fix another gun. So this is another friend of mine's gun, because like I've said a couple times, I'm too cheap to buy any more, because I believe in living frugally, and for me buying more guns when I can only use one at a time would be ridiculous. So let's start pulling this bad boy apart. If you haven't done this before, I've only done this before once myself, which was last night to prepare for this video. Basically, let's have a look. Basically pull off the back, which technically speaking you don't really have to do. Pop out your two pins, which are at the back and front, which you can see right here. There's one, there's your second one. So you just pop them out, use a bit of force. Bah! They're always so tight. So tight, that's what she said. What is wrong with these things? Oh, there we go. There we go. Just do what I do and just force it, because otherwise it just doesn't want to come out, as long as you don't break it. That one's tight as well, I'll just leave that in there. Anyway, basically once you remove those two pins, you just slide this whole top forward. Lift it up, just literally just slides forward. Just watch this, this catches if you haven't fully removed that pin. Lift it up, slide it forward like that. You've got your whole front half, which is basically your inner barrel, T-piece, just all your pretty bits, some Picatinny rails and probably your hop up if you have one. And then we're just left with this piece. So basically what we want to do is there's a pin that goes straight through just above the trigger. So just pop that out. Usually I just use a little Allen key and just tap it out. Just like so, and then just pull it. There we go. Pretty much undo this little mag release. There's a little screw on the front of that. Just undo that. Bada bing, bada boom. Just one little thing at a time. This gun's actually pretty simple to pull apart. I haven't opened up the gearbox yet. Apparently the gearbox is pretty tricky to put back together. So we'll see that now. That's it for the top half. Then we just want to pretty much remove this piece here. That just unscrews to the left. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Bam, that's it. We undo, there's two little screws that hold this little plate on, and that little brass looking screw there is your adjustment screw for your motor, which you shouldn't really need to touch unless you've got an issue with your motor seating in with your gearbox, which you should be alright. I'm just going to use this because it makes it a lot quicker. Bam. That just pops out. If you're pulling something apart and you haven't done it before and you want to make sure you put everything back in the right spot, like especially little screws, for me I'm pretty good, but sometimes it might be best if you get like a little tub and put them in like sections, maybe section 1, 2, 3, that way not everything's getting mixed up. That way you don't bump the table, things fall off, get mixed up. You know what I mean? Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying, homeboy? pull out your motor, undo your little terminals, just pop your motor out. So these motors I've talked about before, these have a pretty much a long shaft, your pinion gear, and then a little spring, because they don't actually mount to the gearbox, they just push up and hold in place, which is pretty good. Makes it easier to pull apart, really. There's 4 screws on your handle to hold the gearbox onto the shell, which I think is pretty similar or pretty common in most guns, to be honest. But if you don't know they're there, my fuck, you can spend ages. You're literally trying to pull your gearbox out. They won't come out. Or maybe that's just me. Who knows? So, yes. Alright, where are you? I can't get in the hole. I have that problem a lot, that's why I don't have a girlfriend. Nah, just kidding. Oof. Hey, oh my god. One, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4. What a challenge. Then your handle just pops off like that. Just keep your screws together. It's like I said, you don't want to mix things up if you haven't done this before. Otherwise, when you're putting it back together, you're like, what the hell? What am I doing? And then before you know it, your gun never works again. And then bam, gearbox just pops out. Really just pops out. Oh, okay, I see. So there's a little screw in here that you've got to undo to pull your plug out so it comes out. I didn't do that last night. It's quite annoying to get too, because it's like, at least with this. There we go. And then just undo that little screw, pull this out like so. Let that pull through. Fishing. Come on, little guy. What the heck? Alright. Oh, just be patient. Oh, there we go. That little thing, just pop that out, put that to the side, pull your cable out, keep this piece to the side. Pull your cable out so you can actually work on it. Just pull this piece off. There we go. So, and when you do something for the first time, just kind of lay it out in a way that as you slowly put it back together, you remember it. It's like kind of anchoring the memory in, because you go from one to the other in the same order that you pulled it apart, which is what works for me. But pretty much you can see here, the nozzle at the front is stuck in. It's not been returned to the front. But this is the LDT gearbox anyway. You can see on the back, your spring retainer, it's basically a big, it's got a big flat slot. So what would work best for that is I'm going to grab it right now. Ta-da! This is just a little pry bar with a big flat edge. A big screwdriver works as well, but just turn that spring and pop it out. I think this is a strong spring because it's quite tight and it's going to jump. They always jump. See what? Mate, these springs, you gotta look out. The silent killer. They get you every time. Look at this thing. But yeah, anyway. So, let me open this up. And probably if you are working on one of the gearboxes, I'd always be careful of these little wires here, because they're only soldered on with like the smallest amount of solder. It's very easy to break your cables off, and if you don't have quick access to a soldering iron, I have one, but if you don't, like, you can't put it back together. You gotta, you know, maybe you're doing this at night time, you gotta run to the shop the next day, leave it apart, and then by the time you fix it and go to put it back together, you can't remember what goes where. So just be mindful of that so you don't kind of have to dick about. So yeah, like I said, I'm just going to open this up and fix this, and then we'll run through how to put it back together. Yeah, like I've said before, if you do watch these videos, I appreciate it. I mean, I don't even really know why I'm doing it, to be honest. I don't really want anything out of it. It just gives me something to do in my spare time, be a bit productive. I want to get comfortable with talking in front of a camera, have some fun. Hopefully the more videos I make, the funnier I get, the more my personality comes out. I started doing TikToks as well. I always thought TikToks were for like 12-year-olds, and I wasn't really into it. And then about 3 weeks ago, I was like, you know what, I'm a bit bored. I'll download TikTok. Now I'm making TikToks. You want to see what rock bottom looks like? You're looking at it. Nah, I'm kidding. My life's pretty good. I hope your life's pretty good as well. I mean, hey, if you're playing with Gelblasters, your life could be worse. I need a bigger screwdriver. Magic. So, where were we? Let's pull this guy out. But yeah, really, these gearboxes are pretty damn simple. You've got a piston, a cylinder head, a nozzle, a tappet or a bridge piece. You got a return spring, and then you got your gear set and a spring, and then obviously you've got an electronic system, which is usually just a trigger, and yeah, just a trigger, your motor, and then obviously you've got a little motor in your mag as well that feeds the gels up. So they're not too complicated. They don't really come with manuals or anything if you want to play around, but I mean, there's not too much to it. I've just ordered a chronograph. I'm waiting for that to arrive. So what I want to do is I want to get a heap of different size springs, different brand springs, and actually test the FPS that you get out of them, because I think that would be an interesting video. Because basically at the moment, like, they just sell you these springs. They call this a 1.1, then you got a 1.2, 1.3. They're all just a different tension, even different brands, different materials. Like, there's nothing really that I've seen, maybe there is out there already, but there's nothing that I've seen that just straightforward says, put this spring in, this is the FPS you get. Another thing I'd like to see is apparently Apache nozzles are coming out, which are they've just got less moving parts, which should be good, because then you don't need your return spring, so you won't have this problem. And you won't have that that tappet or that nylon plastic bridge in there. Because I mean, ideally with anything, the less moving mechanical parts, the better. Obviously, there's less wear. Yeah, pretty much. And you know, if any of you guys or girls have any videos or anything interesting you'd like to see, let me know and I'll see what I can do. Because at the moment I just kind of do teardown videos. Try to make it interesting. I just try and talk while I do it. Otherwise, maybe you're just watching me and you're a bit bored. And I mean, I sure as shit can babble about things. So why not just babble, you know? Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Just have some fun, you know? Just have some fun. And like I said in my last video, you know, gel blasters are fun, but I'm not like a big hobby enthusiast where like all of a sudden, this is my life. But I mean, hey, if that's you, good on you, man. You found something you love doing. I'm just happy doing my own thing. Just happy doing me. Oh yeah. Ah. So this actually has a pretty good gear set in there. You can always check your gears as well and just make sure there's been no rubbing. Yeah, just make sure there's been no rubbing or grinding. These anti-reverse latches are a pain in the ass, but let me see if I can get this to hold in place. Perfect. Alright, so let me focus this camera on what I'm doing. I'll try to explain exactly what I'm doing. I mean, I've pretty much done this video before, but I'll incorporate this in this video as well for those who haven't seen it. That way you don't have to go and watch another video. Watch me fix this, and then basically you are good to go, my friends. You are good to go. Got that gel blaster working again. And you can basically see as well, in the last video where I pulled apart the PDW, it was shimmed at the top of the gears to hold the bushes in place. This one doesn't need this, and this is exactly how it should be. Ideally for that PDW, what I would have liked to done is buy some, just some small hollow rod and cut them to length just to fill out that space instead of using shims, which would have been a more professional way to do things. But here in this workshop, we just get things to work and we don't think about it. So let me move the camera, show you what I'm doing, and then we will continue. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to pop this little broken piece off here. Bam, there. Here is your return spring, if you haven't seen that before. I'm going to pop that off. Just so I do not have to pull everything out, I'm just going to try and unclip it from there like that. Throw that to the side. This is they call this a version 2 return spring. So basically you can see it's a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, so it's just got more tension. So that'll help give this nozzle a bit more oomph as it's returning and hitting gel out as well. So basically that just clips on there. You can just use a screwdriver or something to pull it across. Oh. Alright, there we go. Let's continue. The camera just fell over, but oh well. Basically just lift this up, slip it on, slip it in, that's what she said. Just, oh, sherbet. Slip it on like that. And then basically we have a working nozzle. And that was it on this one. So pretty much for those of you who haven't opened up a gearbox before, I'll say it again, you've got your cylinder head, nozzle, your tappet, drawbridge, whatever you want to call it, return spring, and then down here you've got your piston head, you've got, I just call them gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, motor slips in from the bottom. This is your anti-reverse latch. Let me fix the camera and I will continue to babble. So let's do this. Hey, what's up? And here we go again. So you can see how easily fixed that was, really. Like that was nothing. The time is literally just disassembling the gun, opening up the gearbox shell and then putting it back together. The biggest problem I find is that some gearboxes, you have a problem with your... Let me just turn these gears for a second. Beautiful. It's looking good. Basically, one of the biggest problems I've found is that when you go to put your top half of the gearbox shell in, this anti-reverse latch and gear 3 don't sit in place, which can be super annoying. You can spend quite a bit of time on it. What I like to do is I like to grab a little Allen key like this. I like to go through the top half of the gearbox shell, hold that gear down in place, slowly slip the top gearbox shell back on, and then your Allen key will just pull back out through the bush as the actual gear slips into place. That's the easiest thing I've found if you're having trouble holding gear 3 and your anti-reverse latch in place, because really it can just be a pain. It can be a pain. Anyway, I'm going to close this gearbox. You don't need to see this, so I'll close this and then I'll skip to the part where I am reassembling the gun. So let's go.
Can't take on those biceps, mate. I'm fucking too scared of them. I feel like, I feel like you don't even go to the fucking gel blasters and fire the guns. Like your biceps just actually just shoot out gels.
That's it, mate. They do. They just shoot out gels. I'm like Spider-Man. So here we go. I've reassembled this, put all the screws in, put the spring in. So let's reassemble this bad boy. So pretty much just start by doing exactly what you did to pull it apart. Push your battery cable through the back end, push your motor terminal through the bottom. Just make sure you don't pinch the cables when you do it. Because like I've said before, you don't want little nicks or anything, and you don't want your cables to short. So I reckon we put this on next. So pretty sure that was on like that. I'm pretty sure. Not 100%, but it's just one of those things. Push your back on like so. That looks pretty good to me. And now we want to push this through. Obviously your flat edge faces down towards your cable. This is going to be a pain, I think, to get in. Because I don't want to waste too much time on that, so let's just do the rest of it. I'm going to start by slotting that pin back in, which is right here. Just slide that straight back in above your trigger. Just tap it down. Hey. There we go. It's not my night tonight. I'm man enough to admit that. I feel like these are very simple things, but sometimes you just have those moments. I think we all have those moments. Anyway, to continue, let's slide this handle back on. So, just push your cables through and just be careful. You know, you don't want to... I just repeat the same things, you know. I used to get annoyed at my nan for doing that. She used to repeat herself like a broken record, and to be honest, I'd be a little annoyed, but I guess that's how you learn. You don't want them to. You don't want to keep hearing it, so you freaking listen, and then you go, I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't need to listen to you anymore. Put your 4 screws in at the bottom. And I feel like watching me struggle as well kind of makes the video a little bit more fun to watch, because you see dudes who are like so professional and they just do things so easy. Where's the challenge? Where's the endurance? Where's the oomph? So yeah, just put your foot, this shouldn't take you that long, really. It shouldn't take long. It took me about 15 minutes last night, and I'd never done it before. It's just when you film, it's a little bit different, you know what I'm saying? I did drop that, you probably didn't see that. I'm like a magician. You watch the hands, meanwhile the trick's over there. Alright, there's that. We can put in your mag release back again, so you just push that in, comes through. Make sure you put your spring in there. And just keep in mind, the motor is magnetic, so like if you're missing parts and it was sitting next to the motor, it's probably attached to it. But yeah, I have used this gun, the LDT HK. I actually think it's a pretty good gun. I actually don't mind the LDT gearboxes as well. I've seen there's a LDT, I think it's called, it's the LDX or LXD gearbox. It's like a modular design, so basically where your gears sit, it's basically separated into 2 halves. So you've got your top half and your bottom half. Your bottom half holds the gears, your trigger, obviously a few other little things. And then your top half is your piston, cylinder head, nozzle. And they're 2 separate pieces. So basically you can pull the top half off without having to pull all your gears out, and you can swap parts, which looks pretty good. I think they sell for around $200. I wouldn't mind getting one of them. I also wouldn't mind getting like a metal gearbox and playing around with like really, really high powered springs, because I think that would be pretty cool. I've said this before as well, you just slide your motor in. I'll say this in every video just so people know, but there's always one little terminal on your motor that's marked red. That's for your active. So you literally just slide your motor in, red wire goes on your active, black for your neutral. Surprisingly, you've got a 7 volt and an 11 volt battery. The 11 volt battery does make quite a good difference to your speed, which is pretty impressive. And then again, if you get a high powered motor on top of that, usually they're not so much high torque, I don't think, with Gelblasters. I think they're all just high speed. So I think you can get up to 30 and 40,000 RPM motors. You could probably get more than that. I'm not too sure personally. And I'm not sure what the standard size is. But anyway, once that's in place, just pop this guy back on. And then screw that in. Now with this what I was talking about before, this brass adjustment screw, I've noticed if it's too far in, it'll still work, but your fire rate will be a lot slower than if it's seated correctly. So sometimes you can play around with that and just try and get your... It's hard to say because I don't want you to screw it up. If you screw it in too far, you're going to damage your gears. If it's not screwed in far enough, you're going to damage your gears. It's just one of those things. Really, what you can do is loosen it all the way out until it's pretty much free spinning, and nothing will be happening with your gun. You'll just hear the motor spinning. If you're going to adjust it in, I'd go a quarter turn at a time. I wouldn't go a full turn, because even like a millimeter is going to make a difference when it comes to your motor seating against the gears. Pretty much once you've done that, you can slide this top half back on. Before you even do this, I would test it. Always test your guns. I'm confident this is going to work, which I also said in my last video, and then the gun didn't work, but I'm telling you. Actually, I'll test it right now. I've got a battery right next to me. Here we go. So that works. It's pretty late at night, so I do not want to wake up my neighbours. If you have neighbours, they deserve respect. The last thing I want is neighbours being pissed off at me, coming knocking on my door. Otherwise, you know, I have to fight them. Nah, just kidding. I don't fight. I've never really been in a fight. I'm just not a fighter. Some people are. What you actually want to do this is not a screwdriver and a freaking pair of pliers or long nose pliers. Ideally, you'd want a soft hammer or a little flat punch. I wouldn't personally use a screwdriver, even though I just did. We don't need to talk about that. And that's pretty much it. The gun's reassembled. That's all you have to do. Just get this back bit in, which really, I'll try again now, but to be honest, it's just a bit of a freaking dick about. I don't know why I don't know, I don't like this. I'm just going to say it straight, I do not like this. And I finally got it. That is just I don't like it. Maybe you do. But anyway, that is the LDT HK416D, which I've used, like I was saying, I've used about once or twice. It's a pretty good gun. I mean, it's heavy. It feels good. It's a solid gun. It looks good. Yeah, that's my review. I don't know what you want me to say. I mean, people just speak up about the guns they own pretty much just as much as they can, where to me, honestly, a gun's a gun. All you're really looking at is FPS. That's it. A gun's a gun to me, so buy a gun you think looks good and upgrade it. Let's see what you can make it. Thanks for watching.